All right, well, it is by my clock and Horizons, it's 7 o'clock. So good evening, everyone. Today is Thursday, October 27th, 2022, 7 o'clock in the evening, and this is the Bolton Select Board meeting. First up on our agenda is a discussion with our Bolton School Committee representatives, which is the and the Regional School District Committee administration on FY24 budget planning. I guess in the audience, we have Amy Cohen, Amy Vessel, and Mike Koresh. Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. Amy, it's a pleasure to meet you. We haven't had an opportunity to meet yet, but congratulations on getting to the Bolton rep on the school committee.
Thanks. I'm enjoying working with the committee.
Good,
Congratulations,
good, good.
Amy.
Thanks.
Yep, yep.
It's
Yeah, I
gonna be really
guess.
confusing with two Amy's.
Yeah, that's right. You guys can duke it out as to who's Amy 1 and Amy 2, so or whatever other designation. But yeah, it does make it easier to remember. I'm getting old, so if I only have to remember 2 first names as opposed to 3, then that's good. Anyway, thank you very much. We appreciate you participating. Also, I just want to let everybody know that Emily Winter, our third select board member, is not able to participate this evening. So whoever is got some sound in the background, if you could mute that, that'd be great. We appreciate that. We wanted to get together with you folks. We haven't had an opportunity to do that in a while. Just wanted to talk a little bit about obviously the FY24 budget planning for the school district is underway. My understanding is that the superintendent and some of his management team are working on that. And we will be in town shortly doing that as well. Don Lowe has already sent out a budget message to all of our department heads in terms of what the expectations are. And we just wanted to spend a few minutes with you just sort of at a high level. I had provided Don with some questions, just a couple of particular areas, not necessarily to really go do a deep dive, but maybe just to start looking at. I think one of the things that we being here in Bolton would like to see is the school committee taking a much more active role in the shaping of the FY24 budget. I think in past years that was primarily handled by the district. I know that sometime in the new year there's a session, and Mike, I think you provided something to Don, which he in turn provided to us, which outlined normally. I guess you guys have something on a Saturday morning in January or February, but now looks like it's being held at least from the sheet you provided, it's being held at a school committee meeting. And that really is probably the only real time that people have an opportunity to look at the budget and comment. But we would really like the school committee at large to take a much more active role in looking at not only the FY24 budget, but where the district can look to possibly streamline. As you know, I think when we had our last annual town meeting, the total amount of revenue that we were able to generate year over year from FY22 was less than what our assessment increase in the assessment was from the district. So basically, all available increases in revenue weren't enough to even cover the district's assessment to the town of Bolton. And we're getting to the point where, well, we have already gotten to that point. We've already got to the point where we can't keep sustaining those kinds of increases. And we really would like for the school committee to work with the district to find places where not to sacrifice the educational excellence for the kids, but in all businesses, they periodically do this, and I know many businesses are doing it now, finding ways where you can streamline if there are some things that are redundant. I outlined a couple of things where, one example, there seems to be a tremendous, well, at least from my perspective, a high percentage of administration and clerical in the administration's budget for what I would essentially call overhead. The kids come to school, the teachers deliver the curriculum, and I'm simplifying it to a great extent, and they go home at the end of the day. But there seems to be a lot of administration and clerical, over 11% of the total line item for salary and fringe in the budget. And really would like the school district, the school committee to take a look at that and see.
Dan, you dropped
as you well
out.
know, in a few years. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay. A new high school is coming online. We're working with our assessors to understand what the implications of that are from a financial standpoint. But it's getting very expensive to live in Bolton, and I think we need to figure that out. So I'll just kind of stop there. I'll let Bob chime in if he has a couple of comments.
yeah, I want to emphasize a couple of things that Stan said. The school budget, Bolton's allocation of the school budget is growing faster than our revenue sources are. We have once again turned down services, and last year there were some requests to increase services. We turned them down in order to balance the budget. One of the things we discovered this year is that on a year-to-year basis, we're several $100,000 per year behind where we should be in terms of just maintaining the roads. We don't want to fall farther behind on that, and it's happening in other places too. We had to. We're in the process of the old fire station is probably going to be demolished because the town hasn't been able to afford the upkeep on it for many years. So in any given year, there's nothing catastrophic, but over time, this is a building pressure and it becomes a greater and greater problem. I do believe that the school committee has a larger voice, a larger role to play in the formation of the budget. Obviously, the superintendent has to propose it, but it's up to the school committee to really understand what's in it and to take into account the needs of the communities, the financial needs of the communities in which each of the school committee people live.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I think really, as you well know, in Bolton, and I've been part of it now for at least 18 or more years. I mean, we spend from early January through the end of March every year with between the advisory committee and the select board. And we have every department head come in and review their budgets. It's gotten to the point where Bob and I pretty much know what everybody's line items are and what they spend their money on. We have some new members of advisory who ask some very good questions, but we've really scraped that budget down over almost 2 decades. I mean, there's no wiggle room. We ask departments to can you deal without $50 here or $100 there? One of the things that I have not seen, and maybe it's just the function of that we're not close enough to it, but our town accountant provides a ledger every month of expenditures to date for every department's budget and every line item within their budget. So we know every month exactly how much of that budget has been spent. And I don't know if the school committee has that kind of visibility with the district's budget. And I think that's something that, yeah, I think you guys really should look at and sort of demand that they provide that to you, so you know where either funds are being overspent or funds are being underspent, and where, you know, things might be able to be tightened up. In the questions that I had sent out, a couple of things that I had noticed was, one, the school buses at the high school. Unfortunately, I have a very unfortunate knack of showing up at the post office just when the buses are leaving the high school. I don't know how that happens, but I just do. And on numerous occasions, I've kind of been waiting, and I see the buses go by. And as I said in my note, on October 8th, I was sort of waiting at the exit to the post office, waiting for the buses to go out and finish. And many of those buses are pretty much empty. And I counted roughly 14 or 15 or so buses leaving the high school. And at best, you know, they're half full, but a lot of them are mostly empty. And I mean, that's a fairly significant line item in the district's budget. And I don't know if anything is being looked at to possibly streamline some of that stuff. The other thing which kind of brought itself to attention a year or two ago, and it had to deal with, and some of you were on the school committee at the time, when you know, parents were concerned about remote versus in-class learning as the, you know, COVID-19 pandemics was starting to wane a bit. That also, for whatever reason, got a number of parents from all three towns to reach out to me relative to SPED and issues that they were having with the kids. Don't necessarily want to delve into those particular issues or what those particular issues are, but relative to that, there seems to have been, at least at the time, a tremendous amount of litigation going on. And it didn't seem that the district's budget for SPED legal expenses matched up with the amount of litigation that was going on. And I think in one particular case, there was one case where the district lost, and they were ordered to pay close to $300,000 to the parents who had spent their legal fees on this particular case. And I have to assume that the district spent at least as much. But when I quizzed Kirk Downing about this, I really didn't get an answer as to where that money is in the budget, or what reserves there are to cover that. And I put some examples in the questions. I think those are some of the areas where I think where the school committee needs to look at, maybe not necessarily the particular cases, but the money that's being spent. Because it's taxpayer money that's being spent to fight the taxpayers and the residents of the three towns. So we really would like the school committee to take a much more active role in scrubbing that budget and finding areas where it can be streamlined, not at the expense of education, but I think in areas where there could be some greater efficiencies. And we just would wanted to kick that off and you know, get your thoughts on that and see where we might be able to take it.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for the invitation and for the invitation for partnership and discussion in the budget building process, both for the district and for the town. I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Mike Horish on Burnham Road in Bolton. I've been on the school committee for a few years. There's a lot that that was just said. I don't know that I can go point by point, but I'm going to try to do my best to tackle as much of that as I can. You did share with us some questions, and I appreciate them. I guess the first thing that I thought of was that when you mentioned, Stan, that the only opportunity that the public had to review the school budget was at the January budget hearing. I am going to respectfully disagree that there are lots of opportunities where the district invites public and even public comment to review the budget on a regular basis. And during those opportunities, there's full transparency. And that has been the case since I've been on the Budget and Warrant Committee since last year. Besides the budget hearing, of course, the budget process for the district doesn't start in September. It starts as soon as the previous year's budget passes in May. And, of course, every school committee meeting, there is a opportunity for public comment when we disclose monthly operations reports. In the Budget and Warrant Subcommittee, there's a deeper dive into those operation reports and financial disclosures on a biweekly basis. The school committee authorizes and signs warrants. Those warrants are public record. Our budget every year gets audited by our auditor and at the state level. And then, of course, once we put the budget forward, it is fully available for the public to analyze, scrutinize, and ultimately vote on, which fortunately for us, Bolton has voted for the school budget every year since I've been on there. So I think it's important to clarify that. As it turns out, I am, again, on the Budget and Warrant Subcommittee. I would invite anyone, if they want to have a deeper discussion about operation reports, either with the committee or with our business manager, Mr. Ross Mulcairn. There are also members from other towns that go, lots of questions. It's pretty, so I would invite you to attend that and maybe educate yourselves. With regard to the busing situation, as you know, that the state encourages regional districts or districts to regionalize, and the way that they encourage regionalization is to reimburse. So on the one hand, actually, we have trimmed down the number of buses by 3 this year, which is substantial because we pay for buses by the day. Once we've got them regardless of how they're filled. And for students that live anywhere greater than or equal to 1.5 miles away, the state reimburses us. So whatever our transportation costs are, I know that this year the state is anticipating that they're going to reimburse up to 85%. So it is substantially less than it's listed on the budget. And of course, we could continue to consolidate, but then we would have students on the bus for longer and they'd be sort of in transit. I don't want to monopolize all the time. I can offer Amy to continue, or I can continue. It's sort of up to you. It's up to you how you want to proceed. If you care to jump in, or I can go on, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think the bus situation is, complicated because I know my own daughter takes it every morning, but she plays a fall sport. So she never takes it in the afternoon, but come November, she'll be taking it every day in the afternoon. So I think in the afternoon, if you look at what's happening in the afternoon, you don't necessarily get a full picture of how many kids are riding the bus because of the sports situation. Definitely. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Amy.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other point is that those buses are also providing services to elementary school and middle school students, and the ridership is probably greater, day to day on those because there's not as much flux with their ability to drive or stay after school and catch a late bus, participate in sports, all that stuff. So, but I think the most important point for me is that as a district, we're required to provide busing to students who live 1.5 miles or more from the school district. So I know that there was an effort to find efficiencies this year. And as Mike said, they reduced the number of buses by 3. The only other thing that I wanted to make sure that we state publicly is that the Budget and Warrant Subcommittee of the school committee is doing a lot of the work that you're asking the school committee to dive into. They meet on a monthly basis. They have made it their goal this year to increase outreach efforts and and access to information. So this is a good step towards that goal. But the school committee is a separate entity from the Board of Selectmen. And, we have a process for developing our budget. Like Mike said, it has been audited every year and found to be acceptable. And the administration reaches out to the Board of Selectmen and the town administrators routinely to open up the dialogue about the pressures that the towns face with their budgets versus the assessments that our districts will be putting on the towns. So a lot of the questions that you're posing are appropriate for the budget hearing that's held every year in, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, is it March?
I believe it's
And-
earlier than, yeah, and we don't do it on Sundays anymore, as you said, Stan. We do it during the week. It's probably easier for everybody, but I think it's January if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but
Okay, I'd have to double check the timeline that was sent out, but I think a lot of the timing is driven by when the district receives numbers from the states and,
Right.
and how that factors into our budget. So the other point that I wanted to bring up is that the advisory committee from Bolton, I believe, is attending these budget and warrant subcommittee meetings. And so they might be a really good source of information when questions like these arise, because as I understand it, that is their purpose is to review the town's expenditures, including the school district's budget. And so they're the ones that have really spent the time to dive deep into the line by line budget items and ask questions when they have them of the budget and warrant subcommittee. So that was actually a question I was wondering if the select board could maybe help us understand more as to the what role the advisory board is playing in helping the select board to get answers to these questions.
I may, it is not advisory's role, nor is it their jurisdiction to review the school budget line by line at the, as you said. Brian Boyle, the chair of the advisory committee, has attended many, if not all, of the budget and warrant committee meetings last year during the budget process. I can't speak to the whole season, but Brian did that as the chair of the advisory committee to try to gain an understanding. But the advisory committee's jurisdiction is the town operating budget, not the school operating budget. So they would not, they do not exist to review the school budget.
Well,
They
that's
need to-
not what, I'm so sorry if that's what was heard. What I was saying is their role is to review the town's budget line by line, and the school budget is a line on the town's budget.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad that we clarified that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we are too, because Brian has put in a lot of time to try to get a personal understanding of the budget. I'm sure Mike would agree that Brian has
Absolutely.
attended many meetings, but no, and I apologize if I misunderstood. I just wanted to clarify that. And the advisory committee does put in a lot of time, as I know the school budget and warrant subcommittee does as well.
Yeah.
I do want to expand on something, Amy, if I may. I don't want to
Go for
interrupt,
it.
if that's
Yeah.
okay. Early on in the budget season, I would say we're still relatively early on. As I said, the budget season for FY24 started in May. Early on, we get end of year numbers, and we also get monthly reports, Stan, as you were suggesting, just like the select board does. And we kind of scrutinize them and we dig in deep. In fact, the last budget and warrant meeting was Tuesday. And we looked at the operations report, and we really just clarified a lot of questions that you had submitted to us. But the numbers that come in for the budget this early in the year are wildly out of focus. There are just so many of the drivers that the district is waiting to come in before that budget sharpens up. And we wait for Chapter 70 funds from the state. We wait for construction costs, program changes. Currently, we're in the midst of negotiations. And of course, negotiations represents, or the results of negotiations are going to represent upwards of 80% of that budget. So that's not finalized. The state has to issue our foundation budget, our minimum local contribution per town. So as these things come in, our budget gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And I think in years past, it has, I think the perception has been that the initial assessments come in really high, only to go down lower. But a large part of that, if not all of that, is because until we get certain drivers, we use the previous year's drivers, and those end up giving us the most conservative numbers possible, which is the highest assessment value. Once our minimum local contribution and our Chapter 70 funds and our transportation reimbursements come in, then those numbers get tighter and tighter and tighter, and they get distilled down ultimately closer and closer to where the budget lands. But these are all things that get discussed on a regular basis in budget and warrant. And as I have been a part of budget and warrant, I have sought to learn myself more about the budget, and I'm just as curious as you are about the budget. And I'm, I'm a taxpayer just like you all are, and this impacts me just as much as it impacts anybody else. What we may disagree upon is the investment in the educational product that we're purchasing. I can understand that with nobody in the district and essentially benefiting from the school budget, why that might be a much more difficult cost to manage. But for me, it's an investment in my children, and that's why I vote for the school budget when it feels like it's an appropriate investment, and I see that investment paying dividends with my kids day to day, month to month, year to year. So I think if we disagree on that, I think that's okay. I think we're in different positions. So I don't know if that helps to assuage some of your concerns, but that's kind of where we come from, or at least, we being budget and warrant, and me personally as a representative of the school committee.
Can I
Sure.
tag on to what Mike said? I just wanted to also kind of add on to the fact that not only are we presented with I think one of the points that you brought up is that we should make sure that we are getting monthly updates on how money is being spent compared to the budget. And Mike said that, we are presented that on a monthly basis by the operations manager. But at our school committee meeting last night, we were presented with the results of operations year end for fiscal year 22, the year end revenue report, the year end revolving funds balances, the July through September fiscal year 23 operations report, and the treasurer's report from June 22, giving us a list of cash balances in all of our accounts. So, I think to your point, we are being provided with status updates, and I don't think that should continue to be a concern for the select board.
Well, I
And
guess.
if you want to see that information, it's posted online.
No, that's all well and good, but it's still not getting to the heart of the matter of, is the money being spent appropriately? You're getting information on, where the money is and what the balances are, and that's all well and good. You have an audit that kind of audits everything's okay, but I do not believe that enough detail and investigation is done year over year as to where money is being spent. Is that money necessary? Can something be streamlined? One of my questions is, you have almost over 11% in administration and clerical. I mean, do you look at that as to whether or not that's a wise investment? Is that necessary? I'm not convinced that the school committee does the same level of detailed investigation that the town of Bolton does with its budget, on a year-to-year basis.
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Wasaki, you're on the select board and we're on the school committee, and I'm not judging how you review your budget, and it's unfair of you to judge how we're reviewing our budget. That's how I feel. I think that the school committee approaches this task by delegating work to subcommittees, and our budget and warrant subcommittee has that responsibility, and they bring recommendations to the full school committee for deliberation. A lot of the data there is publicly available data that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education publishes that you could peruse. It provides spending comparisons between school districts if you wanted to, and I'd be happy to share that link with you.
No, we already have that. Bob and I have that information.
Okay, so I think that we were invited here in the spirit of cooperation, to build on the goodwill that was established through an improved process last year. And I hope that we can continue in that spirit.
I certainly hope so too, but the main message is we're all facing tremendous financial pressures. And we're doing what we can, and I'm asking to make sure that the full school committee does what it can to minimize the impact of the three towns. I believe that the three town administrators are having a meeting with Kirk Downing next week to discuss pretty much the same topic. So we're not here to accuse anyone of anything, but we need to have and make sure that every dollar is accounted for. Because we are coming to we are already past a critical juncture, and we'll be having a meeting on the 17th of November to discuss what the impact of the new school is from a tax rate to the town. I already know what that number is, and it's significant, but we'll be discussing that next month. So we have we have to figure out how we're gonna come up with the money and how the taxpayers are gonna come up with the money. So we're asking for your cooperation in this endeavor. Bob, do you have anything you'd like to add, or should we just move on to the next topic?
Mike Koresh had wanted to make a comment, and then I would like to come back.
Sure.
Yep.
Mike,
Can you hear me okay? I'm sorry, my video's off because I had to go pick my son up from practice, then take him to another practice.
no problem. You sound fine.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I really do believe that the appropriate venue, all of these questions are totally valid, and as residents of the town, we're certainly entitled to have questions and concerns and even judgments, and that's totally okay. And I am no stranger to asking difficult questions to operations when it's within my purview. I do think that the most appropriate forum and the most direct way to get access to updates and access to the budget is in the Budget and Warrant Subcommittee. And I happen, because of the resignation of another member on the board, I happen to be the chair of the Budget Warrant. And so we can ask those questions and they can be addressed directly. And this way, it just seems, in terms of efficiency, that way, in that venue, we can answer questions for all three towns rather than answering largely operational questions for the select board of just one town. I think it's just more efficient when we can do it in a venue that represents the district rather than an individual town. So, I don't think that, I do understand the concerns. I actually share those concerns. I just happen to agree with the product that was presented to us. I realize that it puts a strain on our town. I do understand that, but you know, from my lens, and I'll speak only from my lens, we came to this town for the education, and you know, obviously we ended up getting so much more than just our education, but that is for me, that's my primary investment. But I hear everything that you're saying, Bob and Stan, and I think you'll find, if you haven't already, I think that you have, based on the language of the invitation to this meeting, that you'll find real partnership with not only the superintendent, but with other administrators and in the school committee. I am always open for a conversation, and if there's something that I can't answer, I will look into it, and we can get a coffee or a tea or a beer and answer those questions. There is literally nothing being undisclosed or hidden in this budget, and so it is there for public viewing. And one of my responsibilities as chair is to make sure that as many people as possible are as comfortable as possible for voting in favor of a budget that will ultimately impact their taxes. And when that happens, and when we get such strong majority voting for our district budget and our town budget, that's deeply, deeply satisfying for me.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. So I just have one brief question for each of the school committee people. First off, thank you for serving. But my question is, in the last budget cycle for the school district, how many people reached out to you to discuss the budget, either to advocate for more money, to advocate for against the program, to talk about it in big terms or small terms? I'm just curious on the scale of the number of people who got in contact with you over the course of the budget cycle that you last went through.
Amy, do you want to go first, or yeah, go ahead.
Well, I don't think Amy Vessels has been through a budget cycle on the school committee, so I'm happy to answer that first. I've been through two now. One was during COVID, and the second one was last year. And I do recall there being, I can't remember if it was 2 years ago or not, where there was a discussion about world languages being eliminated, or a Spanish program or something like that. And I did get a lot of, I did hear from a lot of residents about concern over eliminating a program.
Is a lot more than 10 or? Just a rough scale.
Sure, yeah, more than 10. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that last year, because of my own personal take on this, is that because we had a new administrator and his personal goal was to do a lot of more outreach as he learned the regional budgeting process for our district, there didn't seem to be as much concern over the budget. And I didn't hear people expressing concerns about any programs being cut, but I don't think there were any programs that were proposed to be cut. And I think that's, as a parent, that is probably what most parents are concerned about, is that something that has been offered is not going to be offered anymore. But does that answer your question, Bob?
Yeah. So, around the Spanish program, you got a 10 or 12, and last year it was very quiet.
You asked if it was more than 10 or 12, and I said
okay.
Yeah.
It was a lot more than 10 or 12, but last year it was very quiet.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
From my point of view, but I'm not on the Budget and Warrant subcommittee, and I think that when those types of questions come in, they are directed towards the Budget and Warrant subcommittee, because that is how we have structured our school committee, is to, like I said, delegate responsibilities.
Does anybody call you up and say, you're my school committee person, this is what I want to I want to talk about the budget?
Occasionally, I mean,
Okay,
yeah. And I
Well,
can
I
tell
got-
you that I have spent time to go through the budget. As I learned in my first year, I have gone through that budget line by line to try to understand how money is spent. And so I don't think I think that, you know, anybody who volunteers their time in this role does want to do a good job in representing the people and the students of our district. And I'm a taxpayer too, so you know, I'm not looking to pay more taxes, but I am really dedicated to making sure that the educational system that we have in place for our kids is delivering the programs that they deserve, and that we're doing a good job at it. So.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I know you need to wrap. I just wanted to say for the benefit of the school committee members that the 3 TAs have resumed meeting with the superintendent on a monthly basis. We started meeting last month. We took the summer off for obvious reasons. We're meeting again next week. We'll continue to meet on a monthly basis, I'm sure. I am appreciative of Superintendent Downing's approach to communication. If he has something he wants to talk about, he doesn't wait for the next meeting. He picks up the phone and calls me. I do the same thing with him. And I think it's fair to say, and I mean this in the most positive way, that there's not an unspoken thought between us. If there's, you know, a question or comment I have for him or him for me, we just, you know, have the conversation and then we move on. And I appreciate that approach.
Can I just add something real quick, Don? Or Mr. Wysocki, I know you're the chair. I apologize for that.
Sure, no problem.
I think with regards to Bob's question, I historically have gotten a lot of questions. They've been questions around, you know, casual places. When I see people out in town at the Halloween parade, I've talked to people about the budget. Typically, you know, at the soccer fields, at the baseball field, so they do come casually. But I will say that last year was absolutely the fewest number of inquiries about the budget. And I'm going to be honest, I think it's because of how our superintendent has worked diligently to disclose the budget process and how our budget is built. And so rather than just at the end of the year looking at a budget and saying, how the heck did that happen? He went through methodically, step by step, and outlined exactly how this budget is built. And I think our goal is to have that document available and even shared publicly again for this year's batch. So Don, you talked about how there's never really an unspoken word, and that you know, Mr. Downing is very communicative. I would venture to say that everyone on the school committee, to a person, is probably just as communicative. Certainly the people from Bolton. If someone called me up and had a question, I'd absolutely have a conversation with them. I would absolutely dig in if I didn't.
And wants to drive it
So I guess what I'm saying is that spirit of communication is not just with Mr. Downing. It exists throughout, and I would entertain those kinds of conversation any day of the week.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, we appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming in. We look forward to having continued dialogue with you folks. We appreciate it. Thank
you.
Thank
Good night.
Thanks. Good
Thanks for
night.
having us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up is an update from the Council on Aging. Who do we have from Council of Aging? I see Penny, I see Barbara.
Lisa?
Lisa and Heather,
Yes,
Anybody,
hello,
somebody.
yeah. So it's Penny and Janet and Alice Romer and Tom Byron and Barbara Brown.
Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight?
Great. You'll need to unmute.
Penny, you gotta
Penny, you have to
unmute.
unmute.
It's very uncharacteristic of you not to be, you're still muted, Penny.
I don't think she
Can't
can
hear you,
hear us either.
Penny.
Aha,
There
we
we
go.
go. There we
but
go.
someone muted me. Was that you, Stanley?
Not me. Penny, I love to hear your voice.
Put your hands up so we can see you're not doing anything, Stan.
Yeah. So anyhow, gentlemen, what would you like to know?
How are things going?
Pardon me?
How are things going with the Council on Aging?
Swimmingly. I'm gonna let Lisa tell you about, since she's been waiting patiently.
Can you give us some highlights of this past year and what you're going to be doing this coming year?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Lisa, the floor is
Sure,
yours.
yeah. Happy to do that. So we are continuing to provide events, and really we've put our best foot forward in terms of trying to get people out and deal with post-COVID fears of being out. We've had various events at the town common throughout the spring and summer, as well as we're back in the senior center. We just had an amazing trip that Heather Goodsell, Outreach and Program Coordinator, planned, where folks went to New Hampshire and rode on a train around Lake Winnipesaukee and had a wonderful meal. All of this is extremely affordable. We're planning another trip in December to Newport Playhouse. It's similar. We have events at the senior center weekly. And so the other end of things is we continue to work with seniors in town, making sure that they're connected with the services that they need, reaching out to those that we consider most frail and homebound, working with the adult children in town who are faced with issues surrounding loved ones and parents, and helping them with sort of referrals, but also long-term care information and giving that resource information. We've made different connections. Heather's done an amazing job getting 2 different farmers markets, mobile markets to come, which they park right outside 600 Main Street. It's available for the entire community, but what it does allow is the folks at 600 Main Street, those are who are homebound in our senior housing, seniors, access to fresh fruits and vegetables. We're able to get farmers market coupons for those folks. The SNAP dollars, which was at one point was called food stamps, are allowed to be used. So we've really tried to increase access to services, healthy foods, providing great programs, trying to be everything to everyone. So we have a group of seniors that love our exercise programs, our art programs, but then there are other folks, that need more one-on-one help in terms of getting resources, Meals on Wheels, things like that. It really does run the gambit. And then we're looking forward to help with recent, inflation issues. Twice the number of people who have applied for fuel assistance have applied already so far. It's just October. So we know we'll see an influx in that. Heather particularly has been quite busy trying to get folks on board with that. And then we're hoping to get a food pantry and essential pantry together at the senior center. We don't have a lot of space, office space, but we will have essentials for people free of charge. And it's mostly things that the SNAP benefits don't allow, like toiletries and things like that.
One of the most important things since COVID is that seniors desperately, it's been proven that the lack of socialization contributes to long-term dementia and Alzheimer's. So one of the things Lisa and Heather have done is really, and Mary Cuomo, who was a part of our senior support group, is really provide programs for seniors to come out and get together and socialize. It's one of the most important things that they've been doing for the health of the community.
That's great. That's great.
If I may, Mr. Chairman. Lisa,
Yes.
while you're giving the update, would you like to give an update on the Boston Post cane?
I certainly would, Don. Thank you. So at the next Tuesday Connections, and that's the, Heather, that's the 15th, November 15th at 11 o'clock. From 11 to 1, that's Tuesday Connections. It's a Friends of Bolton Seniors event. The Council on Aging is sort of helping with the coordination of this. And at that Tuesday Connections luncheon, which is a bigger one, it's where the Thanksgiving meal will be served for the Bolton seniors. The Boston Post cane will be awarded to Helen Weaver, and her husband, Charlie Weaver, will take that, will accept that in her honor.
So that
So
makes
we'd
her
love
the
for you-
oldest citizen. And you gentlemen should come.
We would love to have you.
Yes, definitely.
Very
The only
good.
other comment that I would like to make is that it's important for the board to know, the select board to know that both Lisa and Heather work extremely hard. I think they're an outstanding team. Individually, they both work. They put in a lot of hours, and they do an awful lot for our seniors. I have a fairly good understanding of what they do, but I don't claim to know everything that they do. But I do know the passion they have for their work and the concern that they have for our seniors. And I just wanted to just heap praise upon them while they're here tonight, because they both deserve it quite a bit.
And I would suggest you not get in
Thank you.
their way.
I'm more worried about not getting in your way, Penny.
Oh, now. Well, that you could worry about that too.
No, it sounds like you folks are doing a great job, and we greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes,
very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Good night, Penny.
Good
Have a
night.
good one, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. I'm going back to another meeting.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, next
Bye.
up is the continuation of the discussion with the Department of Public Works Director Randy Heglin on the replacement of transfer station stickers with transfer station bags and transfer station fees. Randy, are you with us?
Good evening. How are you all?
Fine,
Good.
Randy, yourself.
Good. Good. Thank you for having me again this evening. At the last meeting, you asked for a couple of things. I think we supplied. One of them was you asked for us to do a survey of, pay-as-you-throw costs for nearby communities. Well, fortunately, the state of Massachusetts does a survey, and I forwarded that to the board and also sorted it with looking at communities with the number of households served of their transfer station, very similar to Bolton. And hopefully you've had an opportunity to look at that, and if you have any other questions.
No, it's
Yeah,
very
Yeah.
detailed. I sorted it a couple different ways, and there's no pattern that I can pick up.
Yeah, it's great. There's a lot of detail there. I got the spreadsheet
Yeah,
this afternoon and played around a little bit. I haven't come to any conclusions about it, but to Bob's point, there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, it's just, if you recall at the last meeting, I think I said everybody seems to do things a little differently.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to come up with an apples and apples comparison for this.
Yeah.
So,
But in your analysis, I think you said that the bags would be roughly about 40 cents for the larger ones and 25 cents for our cost for the smaller 13-gallon size.
that's correct. Our cost, yes.
I went to Waste Management's website today and just sort of looked at a couple of the options that they have, and our current prices, we're still a tremendous bargain relative to Waste Management, both from their 64-gallon version and 96-gallon version containers. So I think from that perspective, even at our current rates, I think we're we're very competitive, and even if we increased it a little bit, one, to cover the cost of the bags, and two, we haven't increased the price of the orange and green stickers for quite some time. I think we're still, but I mean, I don't think we're here tonight to decide on what that cost should be. I think we should do a little more stuff, but I'm fairly convinced that I think it's a good idea that we move from the stickers that we're using to bags, to help with compliance, and also to help the guys up at the transfer station to know if someone is a resident or not. So at least from that perspective, I'm still very positive in wanting to move to bags. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I favor moving to bags. I have been wondering a bit about the mechanics of it, however. So the bags come in batches of 200. Do people have to buy 200 bags? Can they get smaller amounts? Does someone going to like unroll 50 of them and give them, and then how do you take them home, and simple stuff like that?
Yeah, the bags are bundled and bagged in groups of 10. So similar to the stickers, they're buying the same quantity of bags that they were buying stickers. I do want to mention kudos out to the staff at the transfer station, Scott and Eddie. You know, they've been paying a little bit more attention with the stickers, and I had a conversation with Scott one day, and he said that he's finding actually very few non-compliant, and when he points it out, that people get a sticker. We did have one instance where a resident of Stowe came and tried to dispose of some bulky type waste. I think it was some furniture, among other things. And when the resident of Stowe handed the check to our employee, Eddie, he saw that it was a Stowe resident. And the response from the Stowe resident was, well, they don't have a place in Stowe to get rid of it. So Eddie suggested that, you know, they go to waste management transfer station down by Walmart. So we still get that. We get people from, you know, neighboring communities to, you know, trying to utilize our station. And that's one thing I want to be careful of when we establish a fee, and if we sell, when we sell bags, that we continue like we're doing now, because that way we're assuring that the bags we're selling are Bolton residents. If we start selling them at other locations, like the local stores or something like the company has offered that they would broker for us, I'm concerned that, you know, non-Bolton residents will be purchasing bags. And I don't think it's a responsibility of the shop owner either to worry about if he's selling a commodity to a Bolton resident or Stowe resident or whoever. So I think it's important, since we're still trying to figure out what the fees should be, and we're partially covering those disposal costs by the tax levy, that we should sell the tickets, sell the bags, tickets, or whatever, however we decide, to only Bolton residents. We don't want to subsidize. We should not subsidize neighboring communities.
No, I agree, and the way we're selling it now, it seems to have worked fine. So I think we have it at the transfer station and town hall, and I think we should continue with that practice. I agree. We shouldn't be, even if the vendor is offering to have it at other places, we shouldn't have to make the burden on those businesses to have to determine whether they're a Bolton resident or not. So I would agree with that.
I agree with that. We should sell it. It should be the town should be the only vendor for now. And if in my next question, if I'm getting too far down the path, just let me know. If I've got stickers and we switch over to this, do I bring them in and exchange them for bags, or is that still to be worked out, or what do you want?
My thought was the residents can use whatever stickers they've got accumulated, and then once they need to run out of that quantity of stickers, need to buy new stickers, we'll say, well, this time they're going to buy bags. So there will be a transition period of, you know, perhaps several months before, you know, I don't know how many stickers everybody's buying at a time, but at least a few months of transition time where we'll be accepting both the bags and the stickers, but I expect that will eventually meet away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you could do that, or when they come in, whatever stickers that they have, you just give them face value for that towards bags. 6 of one, half does the other, but yeah, I think we will need to have some transition period, but I don't want to make it extremely long, whatever transition period there is.
we could do like 3 months, and then after 3 months, if you have stickers, you can turn them in for bags or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so I'm fine with the bags. What's the next step?
I guess it's just, I will order a quantity of bags, and as soon as they come in, I'm assuming it's probably about a 3 or 4 week lead time. Why don't we say start after the first of the year, something like that? That'll give us, the opportunity to get situated at the transfer station, figure out how many cartons we've got up there and how many we can store up there, and go forward from there. I think that would be my recommendation, probably.
Will we eventually be able to buy them at town hall?
Yeah, I think the bags, we can do the same thing we're doing now. Town
Okay.
hall, transfer station. Yeah, I misspoke. When I said buy the bags at the transfer station, please assume town hall as well.
Okay, and Don, is there
Yes.
anything about this that requires a vote, a formal vote?
Well, I think you should vote on the switch. And I don't know that you're going to want to do this tonight, but soon you're going to want to decide on the future fee structure. I'm not suggesting you do that tonight, but I think the only vote for tonight is yes. I think you should formally vote the plan to transition from stickers to bags effective, January 2nd.
All right, so I move to authorize the Director of the Public Works to initiate a transfer from stickers to bags at the transfer station.
I'll second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Mr. Chairman, you do have someone with a hand up.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Who has a question? Thomas Geyer.
Mr. Geyer.
Hi, thank you. I apologize for coming into this a bit late. I didn't realize there was a discussion earlier, select board meetings on the stickers versus bags. And I'm just trying to understand, Randy, you said that with Scott and Eddie down there, having looked at the bags, that they're currently, and most people are in compliance. And I wasn't sure what's driving the change to go to bags from stickers. And just thinking of how many times I've gone to the transfer station with a check in hand to buy stickers to slap on my bags to drop them into the dumpster. And now I have to plan ahead to make sure I have enough bags. And that there's going to be stock down there. I know there was the problem with Stowe. I'd heard about that story before. So I apologize again if you guys have all gone through this and I missed it previously. But it seems to me it's going to be a lot more effort on all the people in the town to come down and plan ahead to get bags. And that may sound selfish that I have to plan ahead. But unfortunately, it's the case that you have to know how many bags you have on hand. Do I need more? And plan ahead to go buy them. So is that strictly so it's much easier for the DPW gentleman down there to identify bags that people are not in compliance? Or is there another driving method behind that?
I would say that in the past, although currently in the past couple of weeks, compliance has been good. Historically, there have been a lot of issues with compliance. And a bag is the simplest, a readily identifiable bag is the simplest way to reduce the compliance issues. So I recognize that the problem has diminished greatly for the moment, but that could be as a result of the attention it's gotten over the past 6 or 8 months.
Yeah, if I can comment, last year I spent some Saturdays up at the transfer station, specifically at the point where people would be taking their bags and putting it into the bins with the garbage. And both times, and this was at different times during the summer, within an hour of being up there, there were at least half a dozen individuals who either were residents who didn't use stickers or out of town people who were dumping their garbage. So the primary reason for the bags is that from a great distance, you really can't tell whether a bag has a sticker on it, but you can tell from a great distance whether the bag is the proper color. And since we only have a few individuals at the transfer station at any given time, it makes it a lot easier to identify who is in compliance and who is not.
So are we asking then the two DPW gentlemen up there to be the compliance officers as well, that they're going to be chasing? I mean, there's going to be, if it is a big issue, there's going to be a lot more confrontations, and they won't have an option to go and buy a sticker to slap it on the bag. It'll be another bag that may or may not fit. I'm concerned with them as well, because there's a confrontation and then a townsperson files a complaint. I'd want to make sure that they're covered if they're, in the duties of their job, that they're not taking a task either, because it's very easy to get things blown out of proportion.
I won't speak for Randy, but there's no confrontation. I mean, the DPW workers will identify the vehicle, they'll take a license plate number and information about the vehicle, and they'll pass it off either to Randy or to the chief of police, who then will deal with it.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't concerned about them being in the competition, more them being the brunt of it. So, okay. Thank you.
Okay. We took a vote. I think you need to.
You asked for the vote. We never actually got to it.
No, we got to the vote.
We did.
didn't
We
get to
just
the
did roll call.
We didn't roll
Okay.
call.
So roll call, Sikansky
Aye.
and Wysocki.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. We'll circle back with you. We'll have another session to try to determine what the, I mean, we already know what the price is for the stickers. We just need to make whatever adjustment necessary going forward with.
Thank
the
you.
approval bags.
Mr. Chairman, just while I'm here, can I just make a couple brief announcements too regarding the transfer station? Very
Sure.
brief. Effective November 1st, the state of Massachusetts is changing how the transfer station has to handle both mattresses and textiles. Mattresses right now are disposed of with the furniture, which goes to a landfill or wherever. As of November 1st, we're not going to be allowed to submit or transmit those materials to a landfill. They have to be recycled. So we've contracted with a company. We put a sea storage container up there. We do ask that the residents who do bring mattresses and box springs, that they are clean, that they are not infested with bed bugs or other things, that they are not moldy, they're not soaking wet, because those are mattresses we cannot accept. There's still a fee to dispose of these products because they're charging us a fee to send them to recycler. But the state of Massachusetts has made it very strict on this compliance. So we ask that cooperation of the residents, and that would be appreciated. Second item that is going into effect November 1st is there's going to be what's called a textile ban into where residents and transfer stations are not going to be allowed to dispose of textiles in a trash stream, in a municipal solid waste trash stream. So they said no matter what kind of condition they're in, there are some exceptions if they're oily rags and things like that, but if they're just worn out jeans or shirts or whatever, there are collection bins, the Salvation Army, Planet Aid, I think Red Cross. There's a fourth one up there too. But anyway, those items can go to those boxes. We're going to be negotiating with another company to place some additional boxes up there, and they'll also offer a curbside collection for residents on I don't know if it's going to be a frequent basis or regular basis or a monthly or whatever, but that's still to be determined. But I think that's a good service that will be available to the residents to deal with some of these textiles. Because I mean, textiles means everything: bedding, blankets, bedspreads, shirts, whatever. Shoes, also shoes are another item. So that's another thing we're going to be challenged with on November 1st. And we asked the corporation of all the residents, and we'll be putting out a blast through the website with these new regulations tomorrow. We're working on that now. So, all right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Randy. Appreciate it. I guess you'll be with us with the next topic, which is to consider the recommendation from the Public Way Safety Committee for a three-way stop at South Bolton and Spectacle Hill Roads.
Yes, hi all, good evening. My name is Steve McEwen. I'm a member of the Public Way Safety Committee here in town, and bringing that in front of you tonight. This is our first real signage request that has gone through the new process that the Public Way Safety Committee established over the past year, which entails, a resident is allowed to log into the Town of Bolton's website and make a signage request, which is then vetted by the DPW director, Randy, who was just speaking, also the chief of police, and then is also discussed at the Public Way Safety Committee meetings. We received a request that we discussed first at our September 28th meeting regarding a three-way stop sign at South Bolton and Spectacle Hill Roads for a three-way stop. The applicant, I believe I saw their name here tonight, made the recommendation and provided quite an extensive application with a traffic engineering study done by themselves that we all discussed and vote in favor while in consultation with the manual on uniform traffic control devices. And for those not aware, the manual on uniform traffic control devices is for streets and highways, and it is a document that is issued by the Federal Highway Administration of the Department of Transportation to specify the standards by which traffic signs, road surface markings, and signals are designed, installed, and used. So in the instance of South Bolton Road and Spectacle Hill, we decided, we consulted that document, discussed amongst ourselves, received feedback from DPW and Chief of Police, and agree that a stop sign should be considered at the intersection, a three-way, because there are over 2,000 units per day on average. That means pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicles traveling through the intersection. And also because the ability to see conflicting traffic on an approach is not sufficient, and the stop on South Bolton meets the criteria. So that's why we're here tonight, to just, bring that to the select board, that we do support the installation of a three-way stop at that intersection, and understand the select board is the appropriate board here in town to make the ultimate ruling.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Yeah, I had an opportunity to speak with Randy the other day about this particular item. Now, Randy, I think when we chatted that this three-way stop doesn't necessarily fully comply with state regulations. I'm paraphrasing it, but
it's not.
Can you elaborate?
Not the state regulations. It's the regulations that gentleman just referred to, and the MUTCD. And if this Public Way Safety Committee delved into it further than I did and found some clauses that this would comply with, great. When we spoke the other day, I mean, I initially was in favor. I had no objection to the placement of the signs, put it that way. I've been down there when we were doing the construction, when we were marking things out, see the number of cars, and it is a busy intersection, a busy thoroughfare, especially with the road not going through all the way back to Century Mill from that subdivision. So all the houses and vehicles from that subdivision come out onto Spec Hill and head, towards town. The other thing I mentioned the other day, you're seeing, and every community is probably in non-compliance to a certain extent, that you're seeing more and more stop signs being installed for, traffic control. I'm not an advocate for it in any way, sense. Traffic control, speed control, things of that nature. But in this instance, I think there's some special criteria that I think it does meet and may be warranted. I think I mentioned also to you, Mr. Chairman, too, that there's been some instances where stop signs are put in and we're not sure how they will work or if they'll have unmitigated, consequences as a result of it. So the community I live in, for instance, will put up a stop sign and they'll put a temporary 90-day order to it where there's an evaluation done during that 90-day period to see how the intersection works. If there are a lot of complaints, if there's things of that nature, so that if all of a sudden we put stop signs in and the phone rings because there's 200 homes that don't like it and the request was basically from one resident, I don't want to be put in that position either. So I think this may be a situation where a trial may be warranted, or maybe, something to think about. And it's strictly up to the board how you would like to do it. And if you want more time or think about it, it can be done as a temporary type situation.
Randy, that's a pretty broad intersection there. Would it need to be reconfigured for the stop sign to be really effective?
I don't think it would necessarily need to be reconfigured as much as maybe some stop warning signs, advanced warning signs for the stop sign. I think that's probably more appropriate.
Particularly when it's new, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to do narrowing down of the intersection or anything like that. Right now, there's a lot of cars that do come down South Bolton and they take a pretty fast right-hand turn to continue on South Bolton, and by putting a stop sign there would help to slow that initial traffic back down, where they're not entering the road at 30 miles an hour and they're still continuing to increase speed as they're heading out of town. But I think some advanced warnings that may be another reason to consider possibly doing a trial basis for some period of time, 90 days, 6 months, whatever, and just to see how it works out and whether it determines that there's some kind of realignment of the intersection or some reconfiguration of the intersection is required. I don't think it will be, but
well, this being late October and winter coming on, would the change of seasons affect the results of whether affect your recommendation of should it be a 90-day or a 180-day or something like that trial?
That's why as I was speaking, I was recontemplating my 90-day exactly down your train of thought for the winter, and says, well, maybe that's not a great trial. Maybe a 6-month trial is perhaps a better option. Of course, it's up to whether the Public Way Safety Committee, is agreeable to something like that as well. They're the folks that make the recommendation for these types of regulatory signs.
I mean, I would be in favor of giving it a 180-day, 6-month trial to see how it works.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever done a stop sign installation with a trial, so it would be interesting just from that perspective as to how that plays out. Is there already a stop sign from Spectacle Hill onto South Bolton Road? I don't remember. Or are there no stop signs there at all?
I know there's I've been trying to think of that as well. I know there's a stop sign at South Bolton at Spec Hill. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't recall. Mr. Stan Smith is on. He may have, he would know in an instant whether there's a stop sign, or the gentleman here from the Public Way Safety Committee may know as well. I honestly don't remember. I don't think from Stan's video, I don't think there is, because there was some cars gaining some pretty good speed heading in towards town from Spec Hill at that intersection. So I don't think there is.
Okay.
There is a stop sign there. I couldn't find the hand item there, so I had to just barge in here like that. The stop sign is on South Bolton, and it's coming from where you're coming from Berlin and heading up to Century Mill. and continuing on. There's a stop sign and you turn left, but the stop sign is about 20 feet back from the straight shot through from South Bolton right through Spectacle Hill. And so those folks can't see very well and they have to inch forward. And then the folks coming up South Bolton and heading on to Spectacle Hill, heading towards Hudson, they've gotten through the causeway and they speed up usually a little bit there. And now they're faced with cars inching forward, and we get horn honks here daily from that. But there is a stop sign there.
Okay. I will make a motion to do a 180-day trial of the three-way stop sign at the intersection of Spectacle Hill and South Bolton Roads.
I'll second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. And I
Thank
assume at the end of 180 days, we'll come back to this, to the select board.
Yeah, we should probably do it a little bit before the 180 days is over. So yeah, but honor about that. Sure. Thank
Okay,
you very much, Steve,
All right.
Stan, Randy, appreciate it.
take care.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Next up on our agenda is a request for approval for a commercial filming permit from Eric Betty of Hunters and Fugitives LLC for the production of The Shade to film in Bolton from 10/31/2022 to 11/3/2022. Eric, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you, Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here. I have had a pleasure of meeting a lot of the people in town, and I'm glad that I can finally come to the rest of you with our request for filming. Just a little background about myself and the production company. I'm a location manager. I work for an independent film company called Red King Cinema. They started up about 3 years ago. The director and producer over a glass of whiskey, and kind of raised a lot of money to be able to do this, put it on. They had a lot of backing from like interested people who had seen the short film that we made. But aside from that, we have a lot of professionals in the industry who have come out to work on this film, even though it's a smaller production. I'm actually a representative of IATSE, which is the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. And so I've worked with a lot of other location managers and film professionals that have come through and filmed in Bolton in the past, notably on Dexter and Salvation. So we're very tight-knit film community, and the towns, we always love to thank the towns for allowing us to be able to continue to do what we do. I'm actually from Hudson, so I'm very familiar with Bolton. I wanted an excuse pretty much to be able to go to Bolton Orchards every day and get my my hot cider and donuts, where I've had pleasure to actually dive into the town and meet a lot of the people in the town from the DPW. They've all been great in assisting. And Mark Case, who owns a lot of property, who's been generous enough to entertain our crazy ideas. The pizza shop on Main Street off of 117 are allowing us to use their place for film production. Chief Nelson has been very great and supportive throughout this entire process. And with that being said, I want to, kind of go into a presentation. I can, if screen sharing is available, I put together a little PowerPoint so everyone can get a sense of what it is that we're trying to do. And also wanted to give kudos to the town for being very in the moment with technology. Doing my film permitting online was a breath of fresh air. Working in towns like Pepperell, it's still all paperwork. I think if I tried to film there 5 years ago, probably be engraving the permit application on 2 stone tablets and passing it in. But yeah, so I'll try to move forward with the screen sharing. So
Yeah, Jenny, can you, great, thank you.
great. So the film that I'm working on right now is called The Shade. It's a psychological thriller that follows a child, Ryan Beckman, the middle child of a family, and after the passing of his father, it's kind of a coming of age story of him trying to hold his family together. There's a horror element to it where we're trying to represent depression in a way that it hasn't really been done before, at least to my knowledge. Because it's like one of those things you can't see. You know, mental illness is one of those things that isn't always prevalent. You know, if a kid's playing on a soccer team, you know, he has a broken ankle, the coach isn't going to send him into play. But, you know, someone suffering with mental illness, they don't always get the same respect and the same, you know, attentiveness. It's not very obvious. So they wanted to try to go about this in an artistic fashion and, you know, also appeal to the people who might not, you know, understand or like pick up on what they're trying to do, just like a good old horror movie. Hopefully people can enjoy whether or not they, you know, resonate with the message. So I want to apologize for, you know, coming to you guys so late in the game. We do want to do all this filming next week. I just wanted to make sure that I had everything in a line. There was a lot of logistical, you know, detours that I had to take in the process of putting this all together. But I think that the plan that we have in place now is really solid. And I think that we can honestly do a lot of this, you know, with minimal impact to the town and the function of the town and the residents, you know, daily commutes, things like that. So on Monday, from 12 to 6, and I put a heart out at 6 that, you know, even if we don't get the shot, we're out of there by 6. It's a very straightforward scene. It's a continuation of something we filmed the other day in Leicester, where this kid is, you know, leaving the school and he's coming back to his house. The director wanted to find an area that was very wooded, that the character drives up, pulls off into a shoulder, and the camera is motivated from across the street, zooming in on the window as he has a breakdown, kind of crying, you know, dealing with this traumatic event that has just happened to him. So, you know, if I had to, you know, make my best estimation, I think we'd probably be done with this at 4, but I wanted to give us a little padding, you know, to not like mislead anyone, because sometimes, you know, things can tend to drag, but the way that I've kind of put together all the logistics, I think we can make it work at that time. And then the same day on the 31st, after we film on the road, we would move to Old Bay Road, which is Mark Case's farm. And we would film a scene in the woods. Then Tuesday, we'd like to film a scene at the Classic Pizza Restaurant with a heart out at 2 a.m. And Wednesday, going back to Mark's field to film a scene with a bunch of characters, you know, celebrating during a winter bonfire. Then that would conclude our filming. I put together an overhead map to kind of give a scope of, you know, the radius that we'd be looking to film. We have work trucks. They're smaller box trucks that we try to find intermediate locations between our production camp and the filming locations that we can easily transport equipment. And so the proposal would be to have a work truck lot at the Memorial Field in the parking area on Wattaquatic. And then on the day of filming at the pizza shop, we then want to have our work trucks move to the highway department parking lot, and then move back to the other work truck lot for the third day of filming, because there's main roads going from Wattaquatic, you know, onto Old Bay, where it makes it really easy for transportation. We don't want to be bringing transportation vehicles through more residential areas. We always try to avoid that. We also don't want to be bringing our production trucks, you know, like on roads that maybe are not suitable for like transportation. So that's a consideration that I always have. And then our film locations listed above, and our base camp for our production vehicles, our crew cars for parking, and catering would be at the fairgrounds. So this is an overhead of the fairground lot. And to show where we would be staging all our vehicles and equipment, and the catering tent off to the side would. Hey, Mom, sorry, I'm on a meeting. Can you not? Sorry, guys. And then we'd be having our catering in that tent off to the side. Please, can you not right now? Then the Memorial Field lot right there. I'm gonna actually move to another room, guys. Pardon me for a moment.
No problem.
Oh. All right, apologies. So then brings us to our first day of filming. I had been in talks with Chief Nelson to try to facilitate this closure of the road as easily as possible. We would want 2 officers at Forbush Mill Road at each end of the road segment where we'd be filming. They'd be directing traffic. They'd also be allowing access to people looking to go to the businesses, the liquor store, the departments like the transfer station if necessary, and also to the highway department. So we would have these officers from 12 to 6 p.m. So before we even load in, closing the road, making it accessible for trucks to load in all the equipment. We set up, we film the scene, and then they would facilitate moving all the equipment out. We've prepped the residents in the area. I had my assistant go and deliver flyers to all the homes a few days ago. So they've gotten a week's notice. I'll be going tomorrow to talk personally to the 2 homes that could potentially be affected in like the actual area that we're trying to close, and compensate them for the inconvenience, and also suggest that we could park some of our support, which would be like a catering trailer and a bathroom trailer. So we're going to make signs to be placed at the intersections to make sure that everyone knows that they can still access the road, just that the access will be limited to one side. So for example, if we were to block off the road in a section that would make access to the Forbush fields, for example, only accessible from the Lancaster side, we would make that known on the post that we put out front. Vice versa, if someone needed to go to the highway department and they tried to come through the Lancaster side, we'd post that they would only be accessible through MA 117. We'd also like to, block off our section with delineators, and then also have the cops park their vehicles on either side of the road block in just the area that we're filming, to ensure that even if someone were to come through, they wouldn't be able to, get by the section. And then the 2 officers at the actual intersections to facilitate. And I put together an overhead diagram of what this looks like. So the detour is relatively easy. It almost seems like this road was meant to be blocked off. Go up 110 and down 117 in order to get from one side to the next. And potentially, I would like to have us rent the Forbush Field lot for work trucks if there's no scheduled events. It would make it easier to transport without having to go all the way from the other work lot, but that's just a suggestion. And then this is the other area. These are the 2 areas that we could potentially use for this scene. It would the roadblock would start after the transfer station and stop right before the liquor store. And then on the other side, start after the transfer station and before the resident's home.
Okay.
So after that, we wrap up, we move to the woods, Old Bay Road. We'd want a police officer to stay from the first set and go 6 to 12 to assist with any traffic on the road. Also to help make sure that we can safely load equipment trucks into the opening of the field and unload. From there, we would take the equipment onto gators and we would go along the edge of the field in order to access the woods. Mark's also been cooperative in pretty much everything, and then also allowing us to park specific equipment like a generator and like catering truck on his logging road, so that we wouldn't have to cross the street or get in vans to have to like go and access like any of the accommodations that were required. We also would have a fire detail on. They're going to do some special effects with snow candles, which is essentially just making it look like it's raining ash. And we'd be prepping for this scene starting on tomorrow and actually filming it on the 31st. And so to give an overview, so this is the entrance to the field. So we'd be bringing in our equipment vehicles right to the mouth of the opening of the field and loading out. And on the other side, being able to get a sense of the path going in. As you can see, there's not many residents around this area, and all the residents that do live in these areas behind the field and in front of the field have also been notified. So that brings us to November 1st. We'd be wanting to film interior scenes at Classic Restaurant 3. I spoke with Randall Heglin about using the highway department lot. We wouldn't be blocking the charging stations for electric vehicles. We also wouldn't be blocking the coal patch that they'd be needing to potentially access for any like improvements to highways or roads in town. So we'd be sectioning off a spot and wouldn't be wanting to disrupt any of the other activity that'd be going on there. We'd facilitate with the police officer in order to move equipment from one side of the road to the other. We'd be able to push directly from the highway department lot, push equipment over to the pizzeria, and we'd be done with that. We'd want that officer on from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. and keeping up with crowd control, helping with vehicles accessing roads in and out. But we wouldn't be blocking off any of the roads for this. It would just be if it was necessary to move equipment or people across the street. We'd also want to place delineators around the film set property in order to keep people from coming into the lot, and as an added safety precaution, so people can see that there's an event taking place. We'd place our generator at the home behind the restaurant for sound purposes, and there's no prep any days before this. We show up on the day, we prep on the day, and we wrap on the day. So we're hoping that one is just easy in and out. This is an overview. Don't mind my bad boxes. It wouldn't be taking up necessarily that much space. It's just this is the area in which I had discussed having our production vehicles parked. As you can see, we can easily move it across the road with the help of an officer. So this brings us to 11/2, which would be the last day of our filming. The fire department has been extremely cooperative, and we're taking as many safety precautions as we can with a scene like this. The scene in question is the bonfire. We would have 3 bonfires. It's teepees of smaller trees that are already prepped and set up in the middle of this field. The special effects coordinator is able to control the height and of the flame through a propane line that is buried. And there's a bush on the field, and hidden behind the bush is the propane tank. We've applied for permitting for all of this. We've hired detail officers We'd be prepping this scene starting on Monday, and we'd be filming it on Wednesday. Maybe taking an extra day after to wrap out, making sure that all the debris is cleared off of the field, making sure that there's nothing else that needs to be repaired, and obviously working with the property owner for this. We'd have fire and police detail present. I think it was 3 to 5 firemen and a fire truck that's required for this. We also have special effects professionals on standby with extinguishers as well. We have the officer, crowd control, making sure that all the cars are getting by safely, making sure that all of our background extra cars are getting in safely. It's a background heavy scene. They want to have 75 people. All of the cars would park on the field, so we wouldn't be taking up any other space in town. Potentially, we'd be having catering tents also set up on this field, and holding tents and warming tents. So we heat up tents so that everyone has a nice warm place to sit, and we can process everyone, and we can also have lunch there as well. Again, being the same location as the woods, we've already notified everyone in the area, and I think we've really done our due diligence and in prepping for this, making sure that all the safety precautions are taken, working with the town. So this is an overview. They would like to have our generator down on a shoulder of the road at the intersection in order to minimize any sound that could potentially be picked up. The cables would then run across the street, but would be protected with cable guards, yellow jackets, whatever you want to call them, and an officer there to slow traffic as people pass by. And that is the end of my slideshow presentation. And any questions, concerns?
No, it looks like you've done a very thorough job. So I think it sounds like you've got things covered and contingencies and all of that. So I'm good with what you presented. Bob, any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Absolutely.
In terms of principle, I'm fine with you using like the ball field and a couple other parking areas that you discussed. I would just like to ask the Randy Heglin from the DPW.
I'm having trouble with the connection.
Can you hear me? Or you're frozen right now. Randy, let me ask you the question just to keep things moving.
Sure.
You've talked to Eric about the trucks.
Okay, sorry. I can hear you now. Sorry.
Okay.
I actually missed all of that. My internet connection.
No, that's all right. I didn't ask the question. So
okay.
You talked to Eric about the trucks, and I'm wondering, is it, in your opinion, safe for those trucks to be using the different parking areas around town?
When I spoke to Eric, I was primarily concerned about the DPW, but the Memorial Field parking lot is wide open, so it should be no problem there either. Where he was, intending on utilizing the section of the Public Works facility, the north end of the lot, I think it'll work out fine. As long as we told him we do have one person that pretty much uses our charging station on a daily basis. So we requested that, access be maintained to the charging stations, but Eric seemed to be, accommodating in that regard. And if should a truck become an issue with something, I'm sure that we can find somebody on site, because their trucks are going to be there while they're working at Classic anyway. So, we can ask them if something needs to be moved or anything, but I don't anticipate there being a problem. It's such a short duration.
And no issue with Forbush Mill parking area also?
That's the Forbush Mill I was thinking.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about your, not the DPW area, but
the Forbush soccer field. I'm gonna reserve judgment on that because I don't know when they have soccer practices, etc. And sometimes in the afternoon, I go that way typically, and there's always kids there. So I think there's going to have to be some accommodation for those kids. But I'll leave that. I think Lisa was on. She may have a better idea of the number of kids playing soccer.
Right, but the trucks themselves aren't going to damage anything.
In the parking lot, I would not think so. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my second question is to Dawn, and that is that there's a number of permits that have been mentioned. Is everything in order with all those permits?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I would still be applying for fuel and propane permitting. And I can do that tomorrow. I just wanted to make sure, that obviously talk to you guys first and get your thoughts before I move forward with anything.
Town hall's closed tomorrow, right? Can you do that online?
It's through the fire department.
Okay,
The fire department, but yes, up to this point, Eric's done everything he's needed to do.
all right, thank you. There's a couple hands up.
Okay.
I'm the first hand, I think, Stan. I just
Okay.
had one question, but first I just wanted to explain to both of you that the filming permit application is also in Viewpoint, and it's a very collaborative process. So all of the different departments have seen all of the requests that Eric has made and have weighed in. The only one that is the exception, which is my question, was the 4 Bushmill parking.
Right. So
which
I
would
guess
be
that was more
subject
of a
to
last
parks.
minute
Yeah.
suggestion, not
So
a
you would just
necessity.
need to clear, run that by Parks and Rec to make sure that they don't have anything scheduled. And then my question for you is, would the parking on that day be one of the 3 days that were already in your plans for public or for parking on public property? Or if it's a 4th additional day?
So no, this would be on the day of the 31st if permitted. We can also, we can definitely just utilize the memorial field that we already have and just stake that equipment in. It's not a very heavy scene. Since it's a daytime scene, no lights are required. We'd just be powering our film equipment, cameras.
So it is
that.
one of the 3 days that you had already identified then?
Yes, this would
Okay.
be for the 31st and filming on 4 Bush.
Great. That was my question.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Guyer has a question.
Mr. Guyer, yes.
Maybe less a question than a qualification. In my other hat, I'm also the president of Bolton Soccer. So we've been the ones using 4 Bush Field during this time period. With it being, and we've already actually got the permits from Parks and Rec to have that field. That said, I think we can certainly accommodate Eric and his filming trucks down there while soccer practices are going on, assuming like half the parking lot would work for you.
Yeah, I think we could get by with less than half. I think the trucks that we'd be looking to have down there they aren't like big tractor trailers. They're more box trucks. But obviously, if that area isn't ideal, we could either park the trucks on the road, seeing that the road's already shut down, but obviously leaving an egress, and or just push from the memorial field. But the closer the trucks are to the filming, the quicker the filming goes. So just wanted to throw it out there as a suggestion.
Yeah, and speaking as Bolton.
Additionally, sorry to cut you off. Additionally, I mean, even if, because I know it's a Monday, I don't know if access is needed to the transfer station. If not, we could even potentially just line the road into the transfer station with those vehicles, and we'd be directly next to the film zone. I mean, just to, in perspective of like logistical planning, the other day when we were filming in Leicester, I was able to get the camera truck right next to the set, and the filming that was supposed to be 5-6 hours ended up being 3 hours which is why I like to request. I think what I'll do is go to the town tomorrow and talk with the police, talk with a couple other departments, and obviously try to pinpoint for sure which area would be the best for our use. And I'll also come by with my transportation coordinator to, sign off on that.
Okay, I just say for the select board from our stance for Bolton Soccer, giving up half the parking lot on a Monday was not a problem. And with it being Halloween, traffic might even be lighter and not be an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Randy, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that transfer station access on Monday is primarily the hauler that takes out our dumpsters. There is a lot of area up there, so should he run into a need for additional parking area, he can, off to the side by the salt shed and stuff. There's some place in there that we can accommodate a few trucks if need be. So, I don't think it's I think it's manageable what he's discussing. So,
Okay.
All right. If there are no other comments or questions, I guess we should have a motion to approve.
I move to approve the commercial filming permit from Eric Betty of Hunters and Fugitives LLC for production The Shade to film in Bolton from 10/31/22 to 10/3 to 11/3/22.
I'll second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. We
It's gonna be
appreciate it.
exciting.
Thank
Good
you guys
luck.
so much. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Great,
Good
you
night.
too. Bye-bye now.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Next up, the Eagle Scout project, the request for approval of a service project to improve the baseball diamond on Memorial Field. Milan Ciano, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hi. I'm Milan Ciano. I'm a scout from Troop 1 Bolton, and I'm currently a junior at Neshoba Regional School District. I'm come to talk to you guys about my Eagle project of resurfacing Memorial Field. So this process started back in February when I came to Parks and Recs with my proposal to redo Memorial Field because of the lack of maintenance seen over COVID-19. The field was covered in weeds and very uneven. So I came to Parks and Recs, offered to resurface the field, and slowly worked with Bolton Youth Baseball, the Conservation Commission, Neshoba Regional School District, DPW, Troop 1 Bolton, Heart of New England Council, Northeast Eagles, Diamond Turf, New England Specialty Soils, Robinson's Hardware, Moniac Supply, and Sudbury Tire, True Value Rental, because to put forth this project. And my plan is to, starting this weekend, over the course of 3 weekends, this weekend we're gonna sod cut and get all the organic material out from the diamond and cut it to shape. On the 5th of November, we're going to bring in 62 tons of specialty mixture of infield clay from New England Specialty Soils, and we're going to lay that over the field. And then on November 12th, I'm going to bring a group and we're going to finish leveling off the field, making sure it's a nice grade, and then building, resurfacing the mound and home plate areas. My project also includes the purchase of 2 new tarps to go over the home plate and pitchers mounds to help protect the fields and make sure that this doesn't happen again. we will be, yeah. Any questions?
No, we got a copy of your project plan this afternoon. We took a look at it. It's fairly detailed, and you've got things fairly well covered. A question, and maybe this is for Don. Are there any issues relative to liability or insurance or any of those things, since we're going to be having volunteer folks working on town property?
You're not done.
Don. Mr. Lowe.
I don't believe so. I think that we've had that discussion before about volunteers working on town property, and if I remember correctly, they would be covered under our general insurance. Jenny, I can't remember, have we asked people to sign waivers for this type of thing in the past? I don't think so.
I actually think we did have the Boy Scout that worked on the clock sign a waiver.
On the clock?
Mm-hmm. The clock at the church,
Well,
the
they
town,
weren't-
the town-owned clock.
the town-owned clock. Okay.
That clock.
I actually wasn't remembering that the town owned that clock. I'm trying to think of two things. I don't know that we've had when the parents have done this work in the past. I don't remember ever having them sign waivers, and I'm trying to remember if we had waivers signed for the work that was done at the town common.
If you had waivers signed at the town common, it didn't come up at a select board meeting.
Well, there's been more than one project down there, and I just don't, and waivers would not necessarily come up at a select board meeting. If the board approves a project, it could just be an operational thing
Okay.
that we would take care of once we check with our insurer. I'm honestly not remembering. I mean, this came out of the blue for me. I hadn't really thought through waivers. I mean, if we have a waiver form, we can certainly get them made available for people to pick up and sign and return. So that's not a big deal. I honestly don't remember if we've got, I know the parents never signed waivers when this work was done before. I don't recall that ever.
I don't recall, I mean, when my kids were in scouts, none of us had to sign waivers to work on anybody else's eco project or even our own eco projects. So unless that's something that's been instituted just in the past few years, it's not been the custom.
No, I haven't. I don't know if there was something special about the work being done on the clock, now that I'm thinking about it, but my tendency is to say no, that we don't need to require waivers.
Okay, if you're comment about, well, it's not that it's an Eagle project, Bob. It's an Eagle project on town property is the issue.
No, yeah, but there are many eagle projects on town property.
True, but putting in a park bench is a lot different than heavy equipment and moving in 62 tons of material.
But that's a matter of degree. It's, the question here is, once you're on town property and you're doing something, do you need a waiver or not?
Right.
Okay, Randy's got his hand up.
Yes, Randy.
Hi, thanks. Quick question to Mylan. Are you going to remove the existing clay in the infield? What's the plan? Because I mean, we really didn't hear about this until I think it was Tuesday, maybe.
Yes, I will be removing existing clay from the infield.
How will that be done? Do you have a bobcat or something, or what's your plan?
Yes, we're gonna have a bobcat.
Where do you plan on disposing of the material being moved, and have you made sure that it's not going into a wetland area or a buffer zone to a wetland?
A private Bolton resident has elected to take it.
that I know that, but wetlands can be on private property, and it still comes under conservation jurisdiction. So we just need to make sure that it's not being dumped anywhere that could impact a wetland.
Okay.
I have no other questions.
Lisa, for Parks and Recs, do you feel that Parks and Recs has thoroughly vetted this project and you endorse it with no reservations?
Yep, we're okay with it. We've been talking for a while now. And he has all good people behind him, helping him, parents and volunteers and some companies. So I think he's well guided and should be okay.
Well, I'm okay.
Yep. All right. Take a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Randy.
for the second time. First of all, I think it's a good project. I appreciate the doing this project. Where are you going to stockpile this clay that you're getting rid of, and then these 64? What did you say? 64 tons or 64 yards of clay? Where are you stockpiling this material, or where do you want to stockpile it?
I'll take this one. So it's 62 tons, which is approximately 2 dump truck fulls. We have asked for some guidance as to where the town would like it placed. The trucks cannot go on the field. The field would never support it. So it needs to be placed in the parking area. New England Specialty Soils would be ready to deliver that material approximately the end of next week. They don't know whether it would be Wednesday or Thursday on their schedule. It depends on how the material comes out of their sifting process that they use. The rain has caused some issues. Anyway, so 62 tons, 2 truckloads. The ideal spot would be the parking lot adjacent to the 90-foot diamond, which is the field directly behind Memorial's building there. Then the machinery that we have, which is basically all small machines, because we don't want to put any serious weight on that field. The field is still soft from all the rain. The larger machines we have are very small John Deere tractors. And the idea is to move that material into the baselines, and whatever is left in the parking lot, just basically smooth out the parking lot and make it back to the way it should be at grade. The quantity was given to us by Diamond Turf, who was the company that was hired to do the softball field this summer. And he did that estimate based on the depth that we had to cut and the amount of material that they've professionally used in the past. All of the stuff that we've been doing is on the way that Diamond Turf has told us is the proper way to do it. So.
Okay, there was a couple of thoughts that, came to mind. I didn't know if your plans were going to conflict with the utilization of the parking lot by the film applicant that we heard just previously. Doesn't sound like that's going to occur. But your intention is to, put the clay that's being delivered someplace in an existing parking lot. Is your preference the parking lot on Wantaquatic? Is that your preference?
Yes, that's our preference. It's more convenient and it's just closer to the field.
Yeah, I think that's probably okay. The only thing is that I prefer not to leave a lot of clay left out and don't spread it around too much, because clay, as you know, once it gets wet, it can get slippery and track all over and muddy, and it's better to try and contain it to the greatest extent possible. But I guess it's a good project. I appreciate the input and the help, but it's a good project. So, all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Randy. If there are no other questions, I'll take a motion to approve.
I move to approve the service project proposal to improve the baseball diamond on Memorial Field by Milan Ciano.
I'll second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
thank you
very
very
much.
much. Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck.
All right, next up is the town administrator report. Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Given the hour, I promise to be brief. First Minuteman update. I just wanted to let the board know that I attended a managers meeting at Minuteman last week. It was the first formal meeting that we have had, that the managers have had with the new Superintendent Kathleen Dawson. It was a pleasure to attend the meeting. Also in attendance was our new school committee rep, Erica Elsie. So it was a pleasure to meet her as well. And I want to give Superintendent Dawson quite a bit of credit. She's trying to gather a bunch of managers that all have busy schedules. So she sent out a doodle poll. Half of us said we could make Wednesday morning, and half of us said we could make Thursday afternoon. So she had 2 meetings to accommodate everybody, which I love that approach. The managers in attendance shared with her the budget pressures that we were all under for next year. She in turn shared with us the budget pressures that she's under for next year. So a very, very normal conversation. One of the things that their school committee will be considering, and there are pros and cons, is whether or not they may look to admit some additional towns into the district. It's a preliminary discussion, so I don't want to draw any conclusions on that yet. I'm just sharing that. So it was a very good meeting. The superintendent plans on having quarterly managers meetings, which I think is a fantastic idea. And I'm looking forward to working with her. And as I said, it was a pleasure to meet Erica Elsie as a new school committee rep. Secondly, I just want to give a very, very brief update. One of the goals that I was given and I accepted for the current fiscal year is to evaluate the feasibility of a second means of egress from Emerson and Florence Sawyer. And it was clear the direction was not to solve for it. It's more just a feasibility. Can it be done? And then if it can be done, then the how would be next year. In the meeting I had with Superintendent Downing last month, one of the things I discussed and shared with my colleagues was this idea. Superintendent Downing was extremely supportive of it, thought it was a very, very good idea for safety, just for a lot of reasons, all the reasons we discussed before. On the surface, there are 2 options. One is to somehow channel traffic over to Wattaquatic. The other is to go out the rear towards Bolton Road. Personally, by far, I would prefer the access to Bolton Road rather than channeling traffic in a different direction to maybe just end back up on Main Street again. And it may be too condensed anyway. So my effort so far has been focusing on the access to Bolton Road. I've worked with Rebecca, our conservation agent. She's given me many maps. We've looked at the terrain. I haven't walked it yet, but we're going to be doing that very soon. I don't see any technical reasons why it couldn't be done. What we would like to get a little more into, even though I'm not focusing on the how just yet, one of the things I'd like to understand better is, because there is wetland there, in order to create a crossing, would that be a culvert or a bridge? Because we've learned from Forbush Mill Road that there's a big difference between the expense of a culvert and the expense of a bridge. So we have not made that determination yet. We have our suspicions, but that's all that we have so far. So I just want to let you know that I've begun that process. I have no information other than what I just said. So it's extraordinarily preliminary, but we are making progress, and I'll be providing updates over the next couple of months.
Thank you. Don, going back to your Minuteman meetings. My understanding was that Minuteman was already oversubscribed and there's a waiting list to get in there. And if that's the case, why would they be looking at expanding the member towns?
That was my understanding as well. That was the impression I was operating under. There is not at this point a waiting list. And there is the ability to expand, she believes, the ability to expand some capacity. And if we were able to do that without, because I asked the very same question, Bob. If they're able to do that without limiting access from the existing towns to expand a little more capacity, and bring some more students in, the thinking is that it could, by having more students in essentially the same facility, it could lower the assessments for the other towns. So I think that's the motivating factor. Can you get more kids in and not increase the expense, proportionally? So that's what's being, again, it's being evaluated, but I think they're going to do a lot more analysis and look to move quickly, because one town in the district, I don't remember which one, has their town meeting, I think in March. And this would require a town meeting vote of every town in the district to allow another town in. So they're on a fairly
This
short
is the whole
timeline.
charter thing all over again.
Well, it's part of the charter. Part of the charter is that in order to expand the district, the member towns have to approve it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? If
No,
not, then
unless you have any questions, that's it for tonight. Excuse
no,
me.
I'm good. All right, well, next up is select board business. Do we have any public service announcements this evening?
I don't have any.
Nope, nothing from myself. Next up, update on the school building project. Bob, you're up.
Okay, thank you. A week ago, the building committee met with the design group, Castle Booz, and the owner's project manager, Skanska, to review proposals for the location of a new high school and or the renovation in addition to the existing high school. This meeting of the school building committee followed a public meeting on the same subject, which was held the prior week, I think the prior Thursday. At the school building meeting, a choice was made among the four proposals. It was called option 4D, as in David, if you want to go look at the options online, to place the high school, to build a new high school, to place it to the west of the current high school, so as to not affect the current athletic stadium football field. It would affect the baseball field, and basically place the building again to the west, with part of the building being between the current athletic field and the tennis courts. So it would be further back, closer to the pipeline, but not in any way impinging or being affected by the pipeline. This is a preliminary decision. There are drawings with layouts and, here's a classroom, here's a gymnasium. Those are still at the conceptual phase. Those are not the locked in layout of the building The next step is to prepare documentation for MSBA, Massachusetts School Building Authority, who is subsidizing this feasibility study. And were we to go with a new project, would help subsidize that building also. So that is going to be presented to the MSBA, I think tonight, if I remember the dates correctly, and we expect to hear back to them either from MSBA on whether or not we can move forward to the next step, either in late December or early January.
Okay.
Any questions?
Nope. I think well, I guess once things are submitted, then there's a longer process for a more detailed design of.
There'd be more detailed design. I would expect to have a special town meeting sometime next fall to bring this whole issue to the public.
Okay. Sounds good. No, I'm fine. I have no other questions. Don, any questions from you?
No, I have no questions.
Okay. Next up is the appointment of Craig Johnson to the Economic Development Committee. I don't see Craig here. I would assume that this position was advertised. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll take a motion to appoint Craig unless there are any questions.
I move to appoint Craig Johnson to the Economic Development Committee.
I will second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next up is establish a one-day alcohol for profit license fee.
This came up as a part of a discussion from previous meeting when we were setting the other license fees for alcohol, and the question was about for-profit and a sense of proportion relative to capacity or size of an event. So Jenny did a fair amount of research, and I reviewed it with her. What you see there is my recommendation for how you structure the fees. I think it's fair, for a smaller scale event.
Excuse me, Jenny, could you show this to everybody?
For a smaller scale event, it's certainly, I don't think it's impactful. And you get to a large scale event, which by definition here would be an event of in excess of 2,500 attendees. I think that's a proportional fee given the number of people that we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it looks very good.
Yep, I'm fine with it.
All right, then I will move to, what's the word I'm looking for? Establish a one-day all alcohol for-profit license fee as proposed.
I will second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up on our agenda is future agenda items discussion.
I have nothing tonight.
Okay, the only thing, when we are all three of us, Emily included, are back, I think we had an initial discussion with our school committee reps. I think I would like to have a follow-on discussion amongst the select board members and sort of codify and vote as a board what our expectations are for, while we can control the budget process of the district, that's up to the school committee, but I think we need to, it's important to set some expectations of what we would like to see and what we would expect moving forward. I think we have already passed a critical juncture here, and I think what we feel we need and what we'd like to see should be memorialized as a board. So I'd like to do that as a future agenda item.
Okay.
Next up is set future meeting dates.
Jenny had provided in your previous packet the dates for you to review. We haven't changed anything on you, so you don't need to re-audit it. So we're just looking, unless there are any concerns, we were looking for a vote to be able to schedule the future meeting dates through the end of, into May.
Yep. I'm fine with it. I often don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, so they look good to me.
I don't know what you're doing tomorrow either, Stan, so that's both of us.
There you go. So I'm fine.
So I move to set the schedule of meeting dates as proposed through May 11th of 2023.
I will second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next up, we need to approve the bills and the payroll warrants for W 23-8 and W 23-8A.
So moved.
I'll second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Roll call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next up are minutes. We have some regular session and executive session, which we will do in executive session. But the regular session minutes are September 29th with some changes and October 13th with no changes. Anybody need to see the 20th and 29th? Looks fine to me so far. Okay,
All right, I move to approve the minutes of September 29th and October 13th, regular meetings.
I will second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call,
Aye.
Sikansky,
Aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we will be moving into executive session, and we will not be coming back out other than to adjourn. The executive session is 3 items. One is pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Teamsters Union, Local 170, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the board and the Board of Selectmen, and as chair so declares. And 2, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 23B, Purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to impact bargaining with the police union, Local 286, IUPA, AFL-CIO, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the Board of Selectmen, this chair so declares. And number 3, to approve executive session minutes. Do I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
I'll second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Roll
Aye.
call, Sikansky,
Aye.
Waisaki.
Aye.
Thank you.